Hey guys, we just finished our 5th life insurance summit, and I just did a full deep dive on all the top speakers, all the highlights, and we went through each speaker with my good friend Dave Anderson. And make sure to stay to the end because we actually have a very special surprise. We put a whole highlight reel together of this incredible event, but you'll want to get your notebooks out because if you came to the event, this will be a good reminder of what you learned. And if you didn't come to the event, you'll be able to gain some of the wisdom that were dropped over these 2.5 days. All right, Dave, another life insurance summit in the books. This is kind of an annual tradition at this point where we do a quick, just lessons learned from each speaker. The theme this year was better integration, and we had a record number of people. We had over 330 people register for this event. We had the most amount of sponsors. We packed a solid speaker lineup, which we'll see lots of takeaways. We did something called a lunch pod, which I think was a pretty cool.
Yeah, that was neat.
It was cool to see people intentionally connect with people that they might not have connected with, and we got a lot of new speakers this year, which is always like rolling the dice. It's good because it's new blood from new ideas, but you never know what you're going to get. So I think overall, very grateful. I am constantly thinking about ways that we can improve. And so I'm like, I want to be present with what just happened and just acknowledge, like, I'm just so grateful for what happened. And I'm also excited to go through some of the key points that each speaker made. Anything that you want to say before we go through speaker by speaker?
Yeah, I think this year was interesting because you said integration, and then people didn't speak it as integration, but it was all about integration.
Yeah.
Because it went from the theme of simplicity was repeated over and over and over again, the challenges of the industry and the financial world, the difference that we can make to people in not just protection, but in taxation and the crises that are coming the way the economy works and what our government's doing. And so if you really like wanted to write a little book about what this covered, it covers all those important things about what we do with life and money and then what's meaningful.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to do quick takeaways. Michael Isom got the event started. I mean, set the tone. He shared his story and got really vulnerable to the point that he shared that he was this close to taking his entire life, which I think created massive perspective. I don't know what takeaways that you
Well, it does. I've seen him, been at this with him before, and I've heard his story, but every time you hear it, you kind of relive it. And there's a lot of people that have stories like that, to where life went bad, family issues, money issues, to where you want to check out. And then, thankfully, the Spirit got a hold of him and he turned it all around, and now he's back on the right track. And it's nice that he's willing to share that kind of stuff. It's like, he talks about human life value, source of all assets and property value. And here's his message. That was good. People are assets, not the stuff. And that was a theme this year too. A lot of times these events about money, making money, how we produce, how we get more business, and how we market. And that wasn't there this year. This year was about all the depth and the meaning of what we do, which I thought was really neat.
I agree. Van Miller, what a legend. He came on, tons of great questions. We got to actually surprise him with he's a big WWE fan, and shout out to Daniel Romberg with that idea. What were some of I know you have a whole page of notes for Van.
Yeah, but just the key things you go through is like one of the things I was going to pick on, and I didn't do it in my talk, but I was going to get him, was like, Van, he's a legend. He does all these things. It's like 30 to 50 appointments a week. Like, that's not a big deal. I do 30 to 50 appointments a year. But amazing. He's like 70, about to turn 75 here in a week or so, whatever it was. And the man's just cranking it, right? He's cranking it. The things that I thought that was a message for our industry, especially our young people. Good thing this year too is young people getting in the business. That's been a problem since I've been in this business for 20 years. Like, the average age of a life insurance agent is like 58 years old, and young people are not getting in. Now we're starting to see young people. A lot of that's because of you in the world that I see, because I didn't see it before you. And you see the other old guys talking about it. We've all been there talking about it. And he says, I love the couple things he says. There's no teaching, there's just learning. right? Because, teaching is one part of it. It's the learning that matters and impacts things. And then the other thing he said, I forgot a bunch of stuff. I won't go through it all, but it says, be as invisible as possible in the sales presentation. And that goes in my alignment with me about non-convincing language. It ain't about you. We're facilitating information to help the person make a good decision, right? And so, and then the other last one, I'll stop there, is professionals never get offended. I was talking to a young lady in the parking lot that's new in the business, 3 years. And I said, let me ask you a quick question. Do you ever have to apologize for caring about people who want to make a difference? She goes, no. I said, then don't be apologetic.
That's good. That's really good. That's really good. Next speaker was Ed Slott. He was our keynote.
Ed.
He's our keynote speaker. Yeah. What impressed me most about him is he didn't take one sip of water. He spoke for 90 minutes with no slides, no notes, and yeah, he's someone that I was really grateful that I finally got, and it was an honor to be able to have him. What were some of your biggest takeaways?
I've known Ed for a long time, watched him present a lot, and I like to tease him. It's kind of like, Ed Slott, the run-on sentence. Right? That man does not stop and take a break between his sentences. He's a wealth of knowledge. He wants to give away. He wants to make a difference. This was good. Some of the things he says, because he usually goes into, all his IRA stuff and the knowledge and stuff like that, which is great. And I thought that's what he was going to do. I've seen those 90-minute presentations a lot. And so he did a little something different. And it says, tax preparation costs you money, but tax planning saves you money.
That's good.
And there's a lot about tax planning and the recapture of tax planning, because we just don't do that. We'll talk about taxes, but we don't really legitimize it to what it does. But he does. I'm a big fan of this. Tax deferral just means not yet. Right? And then people say you get a tax deduction. It's like, well, you don't know. Mm-hmm. You could increase your tax bill, right? So we just speak a lot. And then he has these always rules and these never rules. These are great, right? Always, tax-free is always better. Amen. Right? These rules don't have to be complicated, right? Pay taxes and at the lowest rate. I mean, when you listen to the stuff, you go, well, duh. Okay, duh. Why aren't you saying it? And then why aren't you doing it? Yeah, that's a big deal. And then he had a never rule, right? Never waste a low tax bracket, right? Which I thought was great. And then the humor side was the marijuana stock. Right, you buy low, you sell high. I thought that was good. So
he also, did you capture what he talked about with life insurance? The life insurance limousine. Did you any of that?
Yeah. Just to see. Move from the forever tax to the never tax. Bought his wife a barrel. Oh, that was a joke. The greatest gift to your family, and this ties into life insurance, is your own financial security.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't write. I don't remember the limousine.
Yeah, it was fun because he was speaking. I was like, man, I hope he covers life insurance. And then, of course, at the end, he did mention life insurance, that he has it. He mentioned about one of his clients who was freaked out that they got a $5 million tax-free check, and when I got to talk to him more, I think he's just a big fan of looking at taxes unemotionally and just saying we got to start shifting to more tax advantage situations. And so it was great to have Ed. The next session 3, we had Harlan Accola, we had Tom Wall, and then the legendary Joe Jordan. What was your takeaway on Harlan, the reverse mortgage guy?
Well, look, I did a reverse mortgage for my mom in 2010, even before it was popular. Wow. And it was a little bit different, and it allowed her to retire because my mom lived on an $800 check a month. And we used a reverse mortgage to be able to pay property taxes and insurance every year, or we'd had to fund it, right? Type of deal. And so it worked great for her. I think what Harlan's doing, and I think is still a big issue that he's fighting is, and I talked to people in Sidebar about it, and they were like, Dave, what do you think about reverse mortgages? I said, I don't know. That's a leading question here. And people still don't really understand it in their mind. Even after hearing something like this, they think it's too expensive. And then there's comments always made, well, they own your home. No, they don't. And so Harlan talked about the education of the knowledge about it. And their group does a great job, because to do a reverse mortgage, you got to go through a counseling session and be educated about it. You can't just run and do one because you got to know all the stuff. And so it's an important tool. And my thing about everybody's like, guys, the one product or tools are not the problem, so quit saying it. It's the discernment and the application of the tool that's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Tom Wall.
I hate him. I do. I hate him. He's smart. That guy.
PhD. Not everyone.
But he don't even need the designation, man. That guy's he's just smart. Every time he talks, I'm like, God, I just want to leave. It's like I feel like a ding dong. But he's smooth. He's elegant. What's there to like about this guy, right? Because he's so good.
He dressed up today. Last time he came in shorts. So I was like, yeah, you pulled it off, dude.
Yeah, but I like it when he came in shorts. It made him look not so smart.
I know.
Right?
Okay, there you go. There you go.
But he's great. Tom's great. I talked to him on the phone privately and stuff. He's a engaging guy, a great listener guy, serious about what he does and wants to educate people. And I think one of the coolest things that he talked about, because I could go on and on about him, but talking about the stuff, and it gets technical, right? Because Tom's a PhD, so PhDs they know too much, right? The Sharpe ratio, talking about how you blend life insurance in with like the 60-40 portfolio, you get the same rate of return, but there's volatility. By taking some of the bond portfolio and life insurance as an asset class, you might get the same rate of return, but you're sure safer on the volatility, which changes the Sharpe ratio. So people are just not thinking how to place different asset classes together for a plan. They're just not.
Yeah.
It gets too linear. You're an asset guy or an equity guy, or you're this guy or that guy. That just doesn't work. And then he says, oh, this is good. I love simple language, man. I'm always looking for simple language. 2 catches to whole life insurance: health and patience. You got to be healthy to get it. And then you got to be patient for it to build its capital, do its job. And I thought that's a little nugget, man. That gets thrown in there, but that was a little nugget I thought was good. And then the other thing is language that Tom talked about. We need to learn better in this business. He talked about premium versus percentages. If you say $20,000 premium or $40,000 premium, sounds like a lot. But if you say, hey, I'll take 1 or 2% of your money to fix this problem, it doesn't sound like a problem.
Yeah, I appreciate his why people use bonds, because it's clear that you want to have some diversification, especially near the end of your life. And so why do they do that? Well, that's great. But then is there something, could life insurance be a better bond? And I think it was beautifully put together. And so Joe Jordan, he's a character, isn't he? The
best dressed man in the room.
Best dressed man. He got the
he was
best dressed even when he's not speaking.
Yes.
He had the bow tie on and all. What were your big takeaways from Joe?
Well, I thought that the cool way he speaks and presents, been around for a while, seen a lot of stuff, and then he opened up with this external drivers to change, which was technology, regulation, and demographics, and then the significance of those things. Like if you're not paying attention to regulation and demographics, you're going to miss the show here. And then this goes well with you and your theme and living an intentional life. And Joe brought it up, talking about a significant life, belonging, purpose, storytelling, and transcendence. And this is key. And we see this all the time. I work with a lot of retirees and widows and stuff like that through my church and all that. Isolation is the new killer. Now, what I'm worried about today in isolation is our youth. Addicted to gaming and these phones and texting. They're communicating different, but they're communicating in isolation. Yeah. And they're losing the human experience. That is not healthy. We got to get them face-to-face engaged doing something. Get face-to-face and play games. Don't do the convenience over the internet. Be in front of somebody. So that was a big deal. So those were the key things. I just, that guy.
And he played some videos. He mentioned Elon Musk, and even we have a population issue, longevity, but then he continued, a common theme was like, hey, what we do really matters, and just sharing stories that hopefully can get us tied to our emotions a little bit to say, hey, what we do actually matters. So Joe, thank you. All right. Session 4, we had Todd Langford and Garrett Gunderson. Probably couldn't have 2 different type of presenters in one session. What were some of your key takeaways with Todd?
Todd was, great. Todd and I have been buddies for a long time. We're both math heads and calculator builders and all this kind of stuff. and then he talked about the function of cash and certainties and risk mitigation. And risk mitigation is not risk tolerance. Mitigation means you mitigate the thing, and it's not risk avoidance. There's going to be risk, right? And then talked about the mindset impact, and one of our jobs that we're able to do with money and stuff is stress reduction. Those things were good. better physical health, all that kind of stuff, emergency opportunity. But here's the key. Here's the big takeaway I got from Todd this time. It's like a 60-40 portfolio and term insurance. So we're already talking about term, invested difference, all these things. Overall rate of return, like 7.9%. And then when you took 60-40 and in the 40 blended whole life, right, let it be, and let the bonds pay the premium of whole life, then the rate of return of the portfolio goes 11.1.
Wow.
And it's like, so again, I think what people need to pay attention to is don't be so linear.
Yeah.
You know, you have to stay in your lane based on your license and stuff like that, but don't be so linear.
Yeah.
Because we miss it. And I think by you putting these things on and people come up and speaking of that, if you're paying attention to these little things to your business, these are nuggets.
Yes.
You know, these are 20, 30-minute talks. If you get one or two nuggets, like that's why we do this. And it's like, pick up the nuggets you might have missed. And I missed some. I didn't get them all, but I get some, and I write down what's important, and I think makes a difference.
And the power of cash as well is something that Todd's been talking more about. We just did a podcast that we'll be releasing here soon on the power of cash and how that increases everything else in your life. And so, yeah, I think that we need to have more conversations about that. All right, Garrett Gunderson, he said the R word. He's retiring after this. So we got him, his words, not mine, retiring from speaking to financial professionals. It was fun to have him on stage. He's been a constant contributor for the last couple of years. What were your key takeaways for Garrett?
Well, I've known him for a long time too, and through my buddy John Curry, things like that. So Garrett's neat, and and I told Garrett, I've known Garrett and I've watched him. I've known him longer than he's known me. And then when he was leaving, I said, Garrett, come on, you can't say retirement and you can't say quit. I said, all you can say is change, because you change all the time.
Yeah.
And which is great. I mean, that guy, he's always doing something, man. And that's what's fun about watching people like Garrett. He's a super smart guy, great speaker, got a lot of intellect, got a lot of insight about a lot of things, written books. He gets it, right? He wants to give back, type of deal. So he's pouring into people. So he's just changing. It's like, so what they did though, is like the thing he's changing too, he wants to create like this family, everything's done together. And then you got Matt Silverstein in there talking about the AI stuff. And look, and I'm a propeller head software engineer. And I was sitting there swimming going, okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, so all it tells me is, man, people in our space are innovating and doing things that are crazy above my head.
Mm-hmm.
I get the concept, right? But I have to go, I'm a guy that has to be involved to get it,
Mm-hmm.
But what Garrett's doing and the impact he's trying to make, I just continue to cheerlead for him.
Yep. And then the last session for day 5, and one of the things I'll just mention about Garrett is I got to surprise him a gift. He's a big fan of his family constitution, his core values.
That was beautiful that you did that.
It was one of the things that I was like, okay, how can I give Garrett a farewell gift?
Yeah, what do you give Garrett?
Yeah, and I think it's something that will be very meaningful, because you've taken the things that are most precious, and by the way, those make the best gifts. When you find someone that's sacred to something, if you find something sacred to someone and you can create a gift around it, it's going to stick and be way more meaningful. And it was really special to be able to give it to him.
Yeah, we did that. I was like, when you said I've got him a gift, I was sitting there in my head going, okay, what'd you get this guy?
Yeah.
What did you get a Garrett?
The last session for day 1, we had Russ Morgan and Joey Mure, and then we had Chris Naugle. And curious your takeaway on the Wealth Without Wall Street guys.
We were joking because like every time we saw Russ and Joey walking around, right, they weren't 3 feet apart. I was like, we wanted to go see if there was a string in between them or something. It was cute. We were talking about it. Like these guys are great though, man. And I love, look, here's how you impact a speech, right? Yeah, and I got notes on them and things like that. But you know what I'm going to remember the most? 100 unicorns.
Yep. Yes. Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace on the unicorn.
For those of you that don't know what we're referencing, Russ was busting Joey for all the bad investments that they made, and he was just ragging on him, going deal after deal after deal, and where they lost money, and they used each other, making fun of themselves. So,
which is great. I mean, that was great. But the little formula of financial freedom is when your passive income's greater than your monthly expenses, and that was mentioned a lot in this conference too, about being financially free. And not focusing on how much money, but does it produce the cash flow for you to have the lifestyle you want? Mm-hmm. Which, and it was like income's more important in the balance sheet, that kind of thing. And they talked about having the right filters, the right operators, and the right patterns in the way you go about things. And that was an in-depth conversation. What's the other things? And look, I love the simple message. I'm always looking for the simple message to communicate. Deals do not make passive income. People do. So we get so hung up with money, technical deals and stuff like that. We forget that we're in the people business. Even with all this innovation, AI, we got to be careful about that. But we're in the people business. And then the other big key they made is like, when you do a deal, there better be an operator to the deal.
Yeah.
No operator, no deal.
That was huge. They're a big time operator, and they were pretty much saying they don't they're not operators. And so if there's not a really, really solid operator, don't do the deal. Right. Also talking about a framework. They're really big frameworks. And I would say don't think about investing if you don't have a way of thinking about what you should invest in. And so I think frameworks are really key. And then,
well, and to making deals too, the thought of making the deal is like, this is a bad deal.
Yeah.
Until I can prove it's a good deal.
Yes.
Versus we going in trying to make it a good deal.
Yeah, your default should be no until you're, and we're jumping a little bit ahead to Justin Donald, but that was one of my takeaways for him. Okay, Chris Naugle ended the day, and one takeaway that I got from him is he had a chair that he had, and he was sharing his story, and then he jumped off of the chair, not to on the stage, but off the stage. Yep. And I thought he was done. I was like, oh, that's a tough way to end day one. But he springs back up, and
he's young.
Yeah, but anyways, it's just he's a gifted communicator.
Well, and he knows a lot, runs a big business, does a lot of things. Has gone through a lot of cycles. But to demonstrate, it's good when you can really demonstrate something that impacts you a little bit. And so some people look at that and go, okay, what's this about snowboarding and stuff like that? Well, it wasn't about snowboarding. It's about, there's certain things in life, even though they're scary, and that's what Chris was setting up. This thing's scary, and he's a snowboarder. And it's like, man, this thing is fearful. But in life, sooner or later, you have to leap. You got to do something, man. If you don't do something, nothing's happening. And he said he got 6,500 clients. I don't want 6,500 clients. It's like, I'll try to get rid of them. But it's amazing what he does in his private bank. And he's another, again, he talked about, his past experience, what he did in business, what he did in sports, how he approaches things, and how he's using and doing what he's teaching.
Yeah.
With his business, right? He's leveraging his money and stuff like that. Yeah, Chris, he's a very good communicator.
Yeah, great communicator. And if you're on YouTube, you see his content, and it's cool to kind of see behind the scenes of how they're building their business.
And I've called Chris up privately and talked to him, and man, he'll take time with you.
Yeah,
he's very generous. If there's something we can do, we know we'll help and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm a fan. He's just a good guy and give you time, and he cares. I like people. All these people care. That's nice.
Yeah. All right. So now we're on day 2. Justin Donald, Jayson Lowe, Tom Gober. Justin Donald hit us off by talking about his alternative investments, his framework, power of saying no. He talked publicly about how he used life insurance to fund deals. What were some of your takeaways on his talk?
It's again, good questions. So he posed a question out there. What is your network worth to you? And that's talking about people.
That's good.
Right? Because we forget, again, see the themes in here? People. It's not the stuff. And then this was good. I love how he approached that one. What do you think the best investment return I get? And everybody's saying, well, this, trailer parks or this. And he goes, no, I did good there. No, that's not it. I did good here, and that was fun. World-class tax strategy. Yeah. All right. So we, again, sometimes we can focus on the wrong thing or leave things out. So I thought that was good. And another message, another formula for everybody: financial freedom is greater than net worth.
That's right. That's great.
So you can have a ton of net worth, and rich people have money, right? So I'm that guy. I got money. It's like wealthy people have time. Well, I suck at that. So I got to learn how to be wealthy, right? So shame on me, right? And then he said the asset allocation of the wealthy were 60-40 is dead. Everybody talks about 60-40 balance. And then he did all the charts about where people are allocated and things like that. And then he talked a lot about using the cash flow quadrants of Robert Kiyosaki to different quadrants of what's important.
Yeah, I love
that.
And
so at least he's focused, man. It's like he's focused, got a framework, it's working, and he's doing very, very good and a great speaker.
I love it. All right, Jayson Lowe, I did a fireside chat with him. He's got companies worth over $100 million, $6 million of cash value plus, almost 80 policies from his family, family constitution. We're going to do a fireside chat where he does more Q&A with people. What are some of your writer-downers?
Well, but that's the thing. You just look at what he's doing. Again, he's living what we talk about in the planning and things like that, with the family bank, 111-page document about his family constitution, what they do, what their marriage means, But here's some things that, he talked about. Money gets transferred with signatures, legacy with systems.
That's good.
Right. It's easy to do that. But here's what I thought in the middle of that message about family discipline and stuff like that people don't do in their business or even with their family. He says, policy loans are done through an attorney. So they make their family thing as a business through an attorney. Yeah, that does it. And then this is rough. It sounds a little tough, but man, you got to be one strike rule.
Yeah.
So you can have a problem and come talk to us and be honest and we'll work it out. But if you ignore it or don't pay back the loan or something, that's a strike. You're out and you never get a loan from the system again.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he goes, so far nobody struck out. See, that's the thing. If you put serious consequences on the table, most time it changes behavior. And here's another key message. Like should do a little good quote from all these and send to you. Like I need to pull those out. Like keep it simple. Stay away from confusion.
Yeah. That's something that you thrive on. Keep it simple and stay away from confusion.
I know the complicated stuff.
Yes.
But that doesn't make...
You're good at taking complicated things and making them simple, which makes you a great communicator. All right, let's talk about Tom Gober. Speaking of complicated, lots of complicated things happening. And what Tom actually reminds me a lot of you in a different... he's a different version of you. He just is uncovering so much. And when I had him at the house, I would just tell him insurance companies, and he had a whole database of everything. And it got to pull it, and it was wild. But what were some of your big takeaways from him?
Well, it's and we'll get to Barry in a minute. When was Barry leaving, I was hugging his neck, and people were asking about him. I said, we need people like Tom Gobers and the Barry Dykes in the world. I said, Tom's not as weird as Barry. Barry's weird. I said, Barry's weirdo. He's a weirdo. And I said, but we need these guys, right? Because they're amazing. They're difference makers, man. That's I love them. I've known Barry for 20 years plus or whatever. So he really went into what's going on in a big financial picture that you just don't see with private equity control insurance companies. It's gone crazy. And then the big thing we have to worry about, because we're wanting to sell financial security. And we usually go to insurance companies for security because they're playing an 80-year game. And then now you look at the books, and surplus matters in this game. If something catastrophic happens, you got to pay a lot of claims. You got to be able to be financially solvent. And surplus is declining in a lot of these things, and it's getting scary. And so he's exposing that. And then we think it's protection to us. And he brought up a really, really big point. And this is why people do legal stuff and company structures and stuff to protect against lawsuits. It's like policyholders can only go against the company on the statement. Right. And then you're done. Well, that's why these companies create holding companies.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you can go after that leg, but you can't get the big boy. And there's nothing you can do about it. Right. Because they're smarter than you on the legal side. Yeah. And then I didn't know how many carriers. He said there's 700 carriers out there. Well, that's a lot.
That's a lot of carriers.
And so, so his message to me is like, I got to dig in more to Tom, because what it did for me, the impact he has is like, now I'm concerned about what I sell.
Yeah. That's my biggest takeaway was I need to run every company, not just do I like the products, so I like what they're telling me, but let's make sure that the behind the scenes that nobody ever looks at usually when they're selling these things. I think it's really important. All right, we're gonna move this thing along. Right. We got Brock Jolly, Wes Young, Kevin Mayheux, and David McKnight. Brock Jolly, the college guy, always a ball of energy. And so what was your takeaway from him?
Well, it's like he brought up, we always think number one fear, people talk about retirement planning, running out of money. Mm-hmm. But when you're not retired, the number one fear is how I'm going to pay for my kid's college, right? I tell people, look, just make a lot of money, write a check. That's how you do college planning, but that's too simple. But then he blended in all the things with college funding, what it costs, some of the stats and things like that. But we're at a life insurance summit. And he talked about how we use life insurance, for college planning. Why? Well, it's consistent compounding. It's always going to get bigger. We can leverage it, borrow it, loan it, pay it back, do all kinds of things. It can pay us back in the long run because it's a long game. And it doesn't count against FAFSA on what it counts for income. And And then he gave a great example about how, it's just as an example, like you put $25,000 a year into a 10-pay, it creates enough money to take 109 out for 4 years. And if you just left it alone to pay it, it'd pay you back, $250,000. So it's like, you're going to get your money back. It's a long game to get your money back, but a lot of times you're paying for stuff and never get your money back.
Yeah.
So just the concept and bringing the attention to, you got to look at depth. And it's got a lot of people with life insurance, they just think about death and not using it. It's always going to produce a death benefit, right? If it's permanent. It's the things that we can do inside of a family. And this gets overlooked. And he's right. College funding gets overlooked a lot for most advisors. Okay.
All right. Next one is Wes Young. And he kind of gave me some Andy Stanley vibes. He got up there with a chair, with his iPad, and had and he's the number 2 producer at New York Life. So he's a big time producer. He even told me, like, hey, I'm going to do my best to see if I can get New York Life involved in what you're up to, which would be awesome. What were some of your takeaways from what he shared?
You always tell passionate people. Most of the guys here are passionate, and the ladies too. Some of the key points was, having a big ambition with a grateful condition.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's how you live your life. Live life by design, not by default.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing that I have, because, what we don't want to do in life is just exist. And you bring that up. That's why you and I connected so well, because it's about living an intentional life, not just getting in the rat race. And then this was kind of very interesting thing here. When it comes, it's not just change, it's all kinds of things. But he talked about these 3 resistance that you get. And it's like fear, fatigue, and arrogance. And if we really think about that in our lives, about what we're afraid of something in some kind of fear manner, whether it's fear of public speaking, or fear of running out of money, or fear of my kid's going to get hurt, whatever. Those things will drag you down from good decision making.
Yeah.
Fatigue will, and your arrogance certainly will, right? Be open-minded enough to learn. And then a little tip for everybody out there is, like, when somebody asks you what you do, I'm always big about that. When people have a good response, is to state the problem you solve with a question. All right, so state the problem you solve with a question. It's like, we solve big tax problems for people, or I forget how he did. He had it more elegant than I did on how you just, you're asking good questions, right? If you had a big problem with estate taxes and there's a way to reduce it, would you want to know about it? Something along those lines. It's like, people are solution oriented, and then they gravitate towards your conviction about how you speak it.
I love it. All right. Now we're Kevin Mayheux, the CEO of NAFA, which is always an honor to just have NAFA representing.
Yeah, I don't even need to look at notes for him. I've known Kevin for a while. And here's the thing on Kevin. It's like, it was required for me to be in NAFA with the group I got with when I first got into business. And then when I left them and went independent, created my company in 2007, anybody that ever worked for me and that was an agent or something like that, you couldn't work for me without being a member of NAFA.
Yep.
It's a hard, cold requirement.
Like insurance for the insurance
industry. They're the only people that protect our industry. So whoever's listening to this, if you're an agent and you're not in NAFA, I really want to, look, I'm going to put this on video. I really want Caleb to say, to be able to come to this event, you got to prove membership in NAFA.
Oh, I'm not going to do that.
I know.
I appreciate the ask.
But
we'll encourage you to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's right. There you go.
Yeah. All right. David McKnight, he was one of our keynote speakers, Power of Zero, someone I've been working on for a while, just a fun behind the scenes. David and Revan, formerly known as Kirkpatrick, they kind of had some internet beef. And so I've been asking David to come for a couple of years, and it just never worked out. But I also think it was like he saw, hey, I don't know about this Chris guy. And he finally came. He crushed it. He's such a dynamic speaker, has a really powerful presentation. But what was really special to me is he got to connect with Chris/Revan, and I got a picture to prove it. Maybe we'll add it here. And it was just cool to see them. I think it would be really cool to do a podcast with them, talking through some things, but that may, I'll just put that out there and we'll see what happens. But what was your takeaway from David?
Well, I've known David McKnight and his stuff for a long time too. And it's like, what I like about him, this is the first time I've seen him in person speaking. I've been on YouTube things with, not YouTube, but presentations with him where he presented for companies and stuff. So I've seen his stuff. But what I like, here again, it's a complicated system out there. But what I like about David, 2 things. He speaks with conviction. He knows what he's talking about, and he's convicted to it. It makes sense, and he makes sense in the way he presents it. It's simple stuff, right? Money sits in certain buckets. We want to pay the tax bill as a low rate as we can, and the best tax rate is 0. And so there's a lot of math to showing why we pay taxes now, because we're historically low tax rate if we were to look at the system. And people are holding on and deferring because that's what they've learned since the 70s in accumulation. And it's like, pay the tax bill at the lowest rate. It doesn't look like it's getting better. And then you got to remember, it's not just you. It's like if you have money and you transfer it to your kids and they're doing well and the rules change, all we're doing is saving money for the IRS. Let's not do that. So his message, the power of zero, that's where zero is really powerful. That's our favorite tax rate number is zero. So go get them, Dave McKnight.
Yep.
I'm in your corner.
Amazing presentation, and we'll have probably a deep dive blog on the many things that he talked about. It was awesome. Okay, session 3, your favorite, Dave Anderson. Without notes, because you have no notes.
Yeah.
What if you had to like get across one or two of your biggest ideas? What would those have been?
Well, it's my stuff kind of fit the theme of the whole thing that I'm listening to. Is like, I think language matters.
Mm-hmm.
The business ought to be fun, right? My whole thing about non-convincing language is just, it's an internal thing about don't be so bent out of shape to validate and convince all the time. If you care and you speak, better words come out if you get your heart right.
Yep.
And, we always talk about have a heart to help, not an intent to sell, and just go make a difference for somebody. And then, with the lifetime income process, we created a simple system, but it's not the software that's the key. It's the philosophy and the process behind it. It's like, why aren't we showing people simply how to have an ever-increasing income the rest of their life? Quit worrying about money, put it in its place, and get on with an intentional life. And so, as every year goes, I add no value to anybody, but most people say I'm entertaining.
You're entertaining, and what everyone in the green room is saying is, man, I'm glad I don't have to follow him, unless your name is Rob, and he had to follow you, and he got on, and he talked about life settlements, and just I think it's important for two things. It's important to know that that you can sell your policy, especially if you're connecting with someone who has a policy that might not be designed well and they're thinking about canceling. It's always important to know that that policy has value, sometimes more value than the cash value. And then the second thing is it helps in selling life insurance, because we say that life insurance is valuable and the death benefit is valuable, but there's actually markets out there that will buy it. And so I think those are my 2 takeaways.
The big thing on that one that people miss is like, we get it with whole life insurance because it's permanent or IUL, whatever it is, but term insurance, right? People forget that term insurance, you can do a life settlement on term insurance, and they forget that. And they just think the only benefit of term is dying. Well, if you're going to let it lapse, there's a potential to sell it depending on some conditions and rules that go into it, that you can get something out of it if you don't need the money, instead of it just lapsing and going away. Mm-hmm. And so it's, again, you're doing a great job of bringing stuff like this into the industry, because people kind of know it's out there, but they need it talked to them to raise the awareness. So I think that's great.
Celeste Moya spoke. Any key takeaways there? And then Walter Young ended the session.
And so one of the things he talked about that was good is about there was 3 phases that they talked a lot about in the estate planning world, is the risk management of what's going on, making sure we have liquidity of it. And this is the big thing we do. So I'd love to talk to these guys about it, and what they're doing is asset protection. So a lot of people are building big estates, and a lot of times they're building them in a position that they're vulnerable to this lawsuit happy world that we get. And so good estate planning helps protect that kind of stuff. So those were 3 big points that I took away from them, is how do you manage the stuff with risk, liquidity, and protection.
Love it. Love it. All right. Walter Young, he had a powerful conversation around running your house like a business, and just wondering your key thoughts on his session.
Yeah, so when you run your house like a business and stuff like that, and the stuff, the 5th option is like talking about financial anxiety, which again falls in this theme. If we could put money in place and have an intentional life, would be better. And so, he talked a lot about the different things that make us get bent out of shape about money and creates anxiety. Anxiety is not good for us. We need to put it to rest, and we need to have a system in our families, like a lot of people talked about, that we can get rid of that. So the big point I got from him was, I'm always looking for the things that we can cure if we can. And financial anxiety was a big thing that I took away from him. We got to get rid of that.
All right. The last session, we had Trent Fortner, we had Revan Vega, we had Barry Dyke, and then I got to say a few words. Trent Fortner, what were some of your key takes on him?
Well, the thing look, Trent and I have known each other for a long time. He's been a leaper and stuff like that. He's stayed in his lane. He coaches a lot of people. And Trent is like, man, he's just like easy, smooth, easy going. And then the way he communicates with people is like, every time you're around Trent, it's like you see this sincerity come across, right? And then when he talks about the leap systems, like, ask simple questions about when's the last time all your people in your circles, financial advisors, CPA, and all got together as a macro manager. It never happens. And so if you can learn how to be and position yourself as a person that wants to help as the macro manager, the things we learned in Leap when I was doing it, then you get people that want to help you. And that's all I'm saying is we just got to make a difference, put this piece together. And then Trent's very good about, the Leap model, going through all the things that we do in the model to make sure you have a good model, but you're the quarterback and you're solving problems. Trent's very good with language, questions, and solving problems, and he's systematic about it.
He was really focused on questions. He showed Leap and how he walks through it, and he also came on with a baseball bat.
Oh, yeah, with his baseball bat, yeah.
That's always will get someone's attention.
Well, that's the thing, too. It's like, you can't just, sooner or later, you got to go get in the game, man. You can't just practice. And so he always gives a good analogy, so.
All right, and then Revan Vega, he pretty much was like, hey, stop selling life insurance. It was, where what he meant by that is just you really have to get the philosophy right. And so I'm curious, you wrote a lot of notes on what he talked about.
Yeah, it's like, we're in this, we sell to make a living, right? But we don't have to be in the selling business. We're in the problem solving business, and people buy, right? So when you get that mindset, and it really surprised me with him, knowing him for so long and stuff like that, because he's a technical guy and all that, but he kind of gets the problem solution thing. And then this stat that I hate, I was talking to some people about this. I've heard 85, 88%. He's at 93% from LIMRA, who started in this business, give up their license in 3 years. Man, we can't have that, because we need people to go make a difference. And we got to learn how to stop selling life insurance so people buy life insurance. And then he asks deep questions. He's very good about deep questions. He's very philosophical. He travels all over. He does a lot of things to get his Zen going and all this kind of stuff. I talk to him, and I'll ask him, did you remember it? And stuff, and I'll tease him. It's like, that's awesome. He goes, why are you in the business? Why life insurance? Again, these are things that have to have an internal conviction. And without an internal conviction, you're a stuck duck. And this is a good phrase. Life insurance is the only tool that guarantees the life you're building actually happens.
It's good.
That's a great statement.
It's good.
I mean, nothing else is going to do that. And what are you building, and who are you building it for?
Yeah.
A lot of message about family legacies and other people, and we do it for other people. Money's just a tool. And what was the other thing? This was a good one too. Clarity plus alignment equals the life you desire. And people buy what you believe.
That's right. That's right. And then Barry James Dyke, we did a fireside chat. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth. And
I've known Barry. I don't need notes. I got notes from Barry, but I don't need notes from Barry. Yeah, his 5th book, releasing just now, so we can go get that. I've known Barry for a long time, talked to him a lot in the backgrounds over the 20 years or so that I've known him. Like I like to tease him because, he's an eccentric a little bit. Eccentric about caring.
Yeah.
I mean, this man really, he gives a crap about this stuff, and he digs and digs and digs, and, it's like, I worry about him, so I think he can get too caught up in it. But we need people like Barry. We need people to bring this stuff and expose it to what's going on in the big money worlds, from when everybody's talking about whole life insurance from Pirates of Manhattan and banks using it, everybody's saying don't do it, but all the big safe money places are using it, to now what's going on with Wall Street and some of these big companies. And I'm not going to say everything he says, because I don't want, Guido looking for my car.
Yeah, no, I mean, his newest book, Black Eye for BlackRock. Yep. Maybe I mispronounced that, but it just is really exposing private equity. He's talked about how America's 30 out of 30 on the top, the top countries who are the best and worst positioned, and we're like dead last.
Yeah, for retirement preparedness. You think we're great because we're a rich nation, and out of the 30 companies they're measuring, we're dead last.
And so the importance of pensions and annuities. And then he also, Pirates of Manhattan 1 and 2 is what I've known him for. And he talks a lot about the importance of life insurance, but then also like what banks and corporations are doing. And I think that there's a lot of good into his research. And he even teared up at the end, and because you could just tell he cares so deeply about it.
Well, because the question you ask him, it's like any final words and messages and stuff like that. And then when he just thought about it, because Barry's a deep thinker guy, man. He's a good-hearted fella, and I love him to death. But it's like hard to even get out about for my granddaughters.
Yeah.
he's wanting to leave this place better with what he's doing and make an impact and a difference, and he will.
Well, Dave, thank you for being such a constant support and taking good notes and doing this recap with me. It's been a fun event. I'm already thinking about ways that we can improve and mix it up for next year. And so I want to say thank you to all of you that have already gotten tickets. If you're watching this and you're like, I want to be a part of next year, we already have the dates you can check out down below. And it would be awesome for you to be a part of this. The ticket prices are going to be the cheapest they'll ever be. I can guarantee that, because no matter when you're watching this, they'll be the cheapest that they'll ever be. So make sure you click the link and check that out. Thank you as always. And
thank you for doing it. It matters. There's nobody else doing this in this space, and it just keeps growing. And you're bringing companies and everything. And what I love about it is all about sharing and giving. Everybody I'm talking to in my networking, they're like, share, yeah, we'll connect. I'll give you this. We'll do that. Everybody wants it to be better. I didn't feel or see one taker in this whole group, which I think so. So it's a giving group, and that's credit to you, my friend.
Thank you.